All right, so get ready because today we're going to really dive deep into something that just might change how you think about your own brain.
Oh, this is exciting.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at how behaviors change, not just in humans,
Oh, wow.
but across a whole bunch of different organisms.
Interesting.
But here's the twist.
Okay.
We're going to try to do this without relying on the idea of free will.
I like it.
So to understand, what makes us tick,
Yeah.
we're going to take a fascinating detour
Oh, I love detours.
through the world of
Can't wait.
sea slugs.
Sea slugs. All right. I'm ready. Let's go.
I know, right?
It might seem a little strange to compare ourselves to sea slugs.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But trust me on this one.
Okay.
By looking at a creature with a simpler nervous system, we can actually get a much clearer picture of the basic mechanisms behind, learning and behavior change.
I see. Okay.
And get this, we share those mechanisms.
Okay, so let's talk sea slugs then.
Let's do it.
What kind of creature are we even dealing with here?
So the star of our show today
Okay.
is Aplysia californica.
Aplysia californica.
It's a giant sea slug
Really?
that can grow to be over 2 feet long.
Wow, 2 feet.
That's a big slug.
Okay, all right. I'm intrigued now.
All right, so Aplysia has this basic reflex.
Yeah.
It's called the gill withdrawal reflex.
Gill withdrawal.
Yeah. So basically, if you touch the area around its gill, called the siphon,
The siphon.
it retracts its gill to protect itself.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. It's a pretty standard,
Totally.
self-defense move.
Yeah.
But how does this, simple reflex help us understand human behavior?
Well, the neural circuitry behind this reflex is
Yeah.
surprisingly straightforward.
Yeah.
You've got sensory neurons in the siphon that detect touch,
Okay.
and then motor neurons that control the gill.
Right.
And there are even a couple of backup pathways
Okay.
to ensure that gill withdrawal happens when it needs to.
To gub it back.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the real kicker.
Right.
Aplysia doesn't just mindlessly react. What it can actually learn and adapt.
Wait, a sea slug can learn.
Mm-hmm.
I need to hear more about this.
Okay, so imagine you give Aplysia a series of mild shocks to its tail.
Okay.
What happens is that its gill withdrawal reflex actually gets stronger and lasts longer.
So it's like the sea slug is thinking,
Yeah.
hey, something's touching my siphon and
Yeah.
things have been a bit rough lately. So
Exactly.
I'm going to play it safe and keep my gill tucked in for longer.
It's learning from experience.
That is amazing that it can change its behavior based on experience.
Right.
But how does that actually happen in its brain?
This is where things get really interesting at the molecular level.
Okay, lay it on me.
With just one tail shock, you see an increase in the storage of neurotransmitters in the sensory neurons. Give it 4 shocks, and Aplysia starts to produce proteins that actually prevent those neurotransmitters from breaking down, making the response even more pronounced.
Oh, wow.
And if you really increase the intensity of the shocks,
Crank it up.
the sea slug goes all out and builds a brand new synapse.
Really?
A new connection between neurons.
Wow, that's commitment to self-preservation.
Right.
Building a whole new connection just to be extra cautious.
Exactly.
Okay, I have to admit, though,
Yeah.
I'm still, struggling to connect this sea slug learning to us humans.
Yeah.
We're not exactly building
That's
new
true.
synapses every time we get a shock, right?
You're right. We don't go building new synapses that easily.
Right.
But what's fascinating is that the basic molecular processes underlying learning are incredibly similar in both sea slugs and humans.
Oh, really?
It's like we both have the same basic software running, even though our hardware is vastly different.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection here.
Yeah.
So are you saying that even though we're separated by, millions of years of evolution,
Millions.
humans and sea slugs
Yes.
are still using some of the same basic tools for learning?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
What kind of evidence do we have for that?
One compelling example is eye blink conditioning.
Eye blink conditioning.
This is a classic experiment where you pair a neutral stimulus, like a tone, with a puff of air to someone's eye.
Right.
Eventually, people start to blink in anticipation of the puff,
Okay.
even before it happens.
Right, it's like Pavlov's dogs, but with blinking instead of drooling.
Exactly.
But what does that have to do with sea slugs?
Here's the key.
Oh.
Eye blink conditioning in mammals, including us, uses the same molecular players that we saw at work in Aplysia.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about molecules like cyclic AMP and protein kinase A.
So we're seeing the same molecules
Yep.
involved in learning in both sea slugs
That's right.
and humans.
Uh-huh.
That's a pretty strong argument for a shared learning process across species.
It is.
But you said earlier,
Yeah.
we're exploring behavior change without free will.
Right.
How does that fit in here?
What this points to is that behavior change can happen in a deterministic way. Based on our experiences and these built-in biological mechanisms, our brains are responding to stimuli and experiences in predictable, measurable ways.
So it's not necessarily about making a conscious choice to change our behavior.
Right.
It's more about our brains responding automatically to what's happening around us.
Exactly.
Based on our past experiences and those molecular processes we share with, of all things, a sea slug.
That's right.
Okay, my brain is officially feeling a little scramble.
I can imagine.
But in a good way.
Good.
I'm ready to dive deeper into this.
Okay.
What's next?
Let's introduce another key player in this whole behavioral change game.
Right.
The amygdala.
The amygdala.
Okay. It's a part of the brain that's crucial for processing emotions, especially fear and threats.
Oh, the amygdala.
Yep.
The brain's alarm system.
That's a good way to put it.
But how does that connect to learning and behavior change?
Well, fear conditioning,
Okay.
where you learn to associate a harmless cue with something scary.
Right.
Also relies on those same molecular processes we've been talking about.
Oh, really?
That cascade of molecules like cyclic AMP and protein kinase A. And it's not just a simple on-off switch.
Right.
The amygdala's response is influenced by all sorts of things, like how predictable a threat is when things happen, and even an individual's past experiences.
So our individual experiences are literally shaping our brain's responses at this deep molecular level.
Exactly.
This is starting to sound pretty far removed from just, consciously choosing how to react to things.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And this leads us to a really important and honestly a bit unsettling application of these concepts.
Okay.
How we develop prejudice and stereotypes.
Prejudice. Okay. I'm really curious to see how sea slugs and the amygdala tie into something as complex as prejudice.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that.
Let's do it. Our source material uses a powerful example.
Okay.
Donald Trump's speech.
Oh, right. Yeah. Where he associated Mexican immigrants with negative qualities.
Yeah. That speech.
Yeah.
Definitely got people talking, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
And the source material, suggests that it was effective in a sense because it tapped into this same fear conditioning process we see happening in the brain.
Exactly. It's like pairing that neutral stimulus, a group of people, with negative concepts, which then creates a negative association.
So it's like our brains are being trained to see a threat where there might not actually be one.
That's right.
Simply because of how information is being presented to us.
Exactly. It's
kind of scary when you think about it.
It is. That's the unsettling part. Our tendency to form these associations is often shaped by a lifetime of influences that are completely outside of our control.
Wow.
Think about it. Early experiences, cultural background, even things like genetic predispositions and recent events.
Like everything's in the mix.
It's all in there.
Okay.
They all play a role in shaping our perceptions.
So even something as complex as prejudice, as harmful as stereotypes, can be understood.
At least in part,
through this lens of biological mechanisms that are constantly shaping how our brains respond to the world around us.
That's right.
It's kind of a lot to process, to be honest.
It is a lot.
It makes you wonder about the idea of free will, doesn't it?
For sure.
If so much of what we do is shaped by factors we're not even aware of, how much control do we really have?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a question philosophers have been grappling with for ages.
Oh, I bet.
And neuroscience is starting to provide some really interesting insights.
Like what?
There's evidence suggesting that our sense of free will, that feeling of making conscious choices, might actually be our brains trying to explain actions that have already been set in motion by underlying neural processes.
So it's like our brains are telling us a story.
They are.
About why we did something after the fact.
After the fact.
Even though the decision might have already been made on a subconscious level.
It's like...
That's wild.
It's like finding out the magician's trick is just clever manipulation and not magic at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I thought there was some special sauce in there.
Yeah.
And it's like, nope, it's just, sleight of hand.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, smoke and mirrors.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And for some people, that realization can be pretty unsettling. It challenges our deeply held beliefs about who we are and how we make decisions.
Like, what's the point then?
Yeah, but I actually think it can also be incredibly liberating.
Liberating?
Yeah, think about it.
How so?
If we can let go of this illusion that we have absolute control, if we can accept that our brains are complex systems constantly responding to a bunch of different influences.
So many things going on.
Yeah, then we can start to focus on understanding those influences and figuring out how to shape them in positive ways.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So instead of getting caught up in the debate about whether or not we have free will, we could shift our attention to understanding the things that shape our behavior and create environments, both internally and externally, that support the kinds of choices we want to make.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I may not have free will, but I can tilt the playing field in my favor.
That's a good way to think about it.
Okay.
And that's where things get really exciting.
Okay. I like exciting.
Because if we can grasp the mechanisms behind learning and behavior change, we can start to design interventions, therapies, even social policies that really take these mechanisms into account.
So we're not just stuck with whatever wiring we've inherited. We can actually use our knowledge of how the brain works to change things for the better, both for individuals and for society as a whole.
That's right.
Okay, that's a much more hopeful outlook.
It is.
So where do we even begin?
One of the most powerful tools we have is understanding the power of categorization and association.
Categorization and association.
Remember those neural networks we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Those layers of neurons that represent increasingly abstract concepts?
Right.
Well, those networks are constantly being shaped by our experiences.
So the more we're exposed to certain ideas or experiences, the stronger those connections become.
That's right.
And the more likely we are to act in ways that reflect those ideas.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this is exactly why representation matters so much.
Representation.
The stories we tell ourselves and each other.
Yeah.
The images we see.
Right.
The experiences we have.
It all matters.
They all shape our neural networks.
Wow.
And have a direct impact on our perceptions and actions.
It's like we're being primed, whether we're conscious of it or not, to see the world in certain ways and react accordingly.
That's right.
Which honestly is a little scary when you think about it.
It can be.
The power of advertising.
Yes.
Propaganda. Even just the biases we inherit from our families and our culture.
All shaping our brains.
They're all shaping our brains without us even realizing it.
Without us even knowing.
That's heavy.
It can be a little daunting, yes.
Yeah.
But remember that our brains are also incredibly adaptable.
Oh, that's good.
We're not just passively absorbing information.
Yeah.
We can actively engage with the world.
Okay.
Seek out new experiences.
I like it.
Challenge our assumptions and literally rewire those neural networks.
So it's not about trying to pretend those biases don't exist.
No.
It's about recognizing their power.
Recognizing it.
And then consciously working to create new associations, new pathways in our brains that can lead to better, more positive outcomes.
Yeah, that's what we want.
I like that. So where do we start?
It all starts with awareness. Where both of our own internal biases and those external forces that are shaping our perceptions.
Right.
And it's about actively seeking out experiences that help broaden our perspective, challenge our assumptions, and nurture things like empathy and understanding.
So it's about getting outside of our comfort zones.
It is.
Expanding our social circles.
Yes.
And engaging with people and ideas that challenge our preconceived notions.
That's right.
It's about actively seeking out diversity.
It is.
And embracing it.
Yes.
And an opportunity to learn and grow.
You got it. And the more we do that, the more we rewire our brains to see the world through a lens of empathy and understanding.
Right.
Rather than through a lens of fear and prejudice.
Okay, so we got to put down the fear and pick up empathy.
Exactly.
It's incredible to think that we can literally change our brains through the experiences we choose. It's like we have the ability to sculpt our own neural pathways to build a more just and equitable world.
I love that.
One connection at a time.
One connection at a time.
That's pretty amazing.
That's the power of neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity.
It reminds us that we are capable of change and growth throughout our lives.
So we're not stuck.
We're not stuck.
That's a good message.
And it's an invitation to actively pursue experiences that encourage that growth, both in ourselves and in the world around us.
This is some seriously thought-provoking stuff.
It is.
We've gone from sea slugs to stereotypes.
We have.
From fear conditioning to free will.
The whole gamut.
And it's all connected in some way.
It is all connected.
It's like we've been given a peek behind the curtain of our own minds.
I love that.
And it's both humbling and incredibly empowering at the same time.
It is, and we're just scratching the surface.
Oh, really?
There's so much more to explore.
Oh, okay.
So much more to learn about the incredible complexity of the human brain.
Right. And how it shapes our experience of the world.
Okay, I'm ready for more.
Right.
Let's keep going with this.
Okay.
How can we use what we're learning about how our experiences shape our brains to create positive change?
Let's talk about that.
So we're talking about like rewiring our brains for the better.
Yeah.
But like, how do we actually do that? What are some like practical steps?
One really exciting area is the application of these principles to some of the biggest challenges facing society.
Oh, okay.
For instance, there's growing interest in mindfulness-based interventions to tackle stress, improve mental health, and even encourage more pro-social behavior.
Wait, mindfulness? You mean like meditation and stuff?
Exactly.
I'm not sure I see the connection to rewiring our brains.
It might seem surprising.
Yeah.
But mindfulness practices can actually lead to measurable changes in brain structure and function.
Studies have shown that regularly meditating can increase gray matter density in areas of the brain linked to attention, emotional regulation, and empathy.
Okay, so it's like a workout for your brain.
It is.
Strengthening the areas that help us like stay calm, focused, compassionate.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see how that would be helpful.
Right.
But what about those like automatic responses?
Yeah.
The ones tied to things like fear and prejudice.
Yeah.
Can mindfulness really help with that?
It can.
Right.
Research suggests that mindfulness can also decrease activity in the amygdala.
Oh, wow.
That fear center we talked about earlier.
Right.
Essentially, it helps quiet down those alarm bells that can trigger fear and reactivity.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about like feeling good in the moment.
No.
It's about cultivating habits of mind that can lead to lasting positive change.
Exactly. That's the goal.
But let's be honest.
Yeah.
Mindfulness isn't exactly a walk in the park.
I've
tried meditation before, and my mind has a tendency to wander all over the place.
It's common.
Yeah.
It definitely takes practice.
Okay.
But the more we practice, the better we get at it.
Right.
And even short bursts of mindfulness can have a positive impact.
Okay, that's good to know.
The key is to find what works for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Whether it's formal meditation, mindful breathing exercises, or even just taking a few moments to pause and pay attention to your surroundings with a sense of curiosity and openness.
So it's about weaving mindfulness into our daily lives, even in small ways.
Little by little.
To become more aware of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors.
Exactly.
And ultimately make more conscious choices.
That's what it's all about.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
Good.
But if I'm being totally honest,
I'm
still wrestling with this whole idea of free will.
I understand.
If so much of what we do is shaped by factors we're not even aware of, does that mean we're just robots, blindly following our programming?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a tough one to answer definitively.
Right.
But here's a different way to think about it.
Okay.
Imagine you're driving a car.
Okay. I can do that.
You don't need to understand every little detail of how the engine works to drive it.
Right.
You don't consciously control every spark plug firing or every piston pumping.
No, definitely not.
But you do have control over the steering wheel, the gas pedal, and the brakes.
Okay.
You make choices about where you want to go and how to get there.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not about having total control over every single thing our brain does.
No.
But more about like understanding the basic principles.
Yeah.
And then using that knowledge to steer ourselves in the right direction.
You got it.
Okay.
And that's where mindfulness comes in again. It helps us become more aware of the forces that shape our thoughts and actions so that we can make more conscious, deliberate choices about how we respond.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we do have agency, even within the limitations of our biology.
So it's not about denying our biology.
No.
It's about working with it.
That's it.
It's about understanding the rules of the game so that we can play it more skillfully.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And the more we learn about those rules, the more empowered we become to create positive change, both in our own lives and in the world as a whole.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a lot more hopeful after this deep dive.
Me too.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the inner workings of sea slugs to the complexities of human behavior.
It's been a journey.
But the biggest takeaway for me is this.
Okay, what is it?
Even though our brains might be deterministic systems shaped by a bunch of different influences, we still have the power to learn, adapt, and make choices that align with our values.
That's right.
It might not always be easy.
It might not.
But it is possible. And if we can embrace that possibility,
yes,
if we can cultivate awareness, compassion, and a willingness to challenge our own assumptions,
we have to be open to that.
Then I truly believe we have a real shot at creating a future where understanding and kindness prevail.
I agree. That's definitely a future worth striving for.
Yeah, absolutely. So to everyone listening out there, I'll leave you with this thought.
Okay.
The next time you're facing a tough choice,
yeah,
a moment of temptation, or a surge of anger, take a breath.
Good advice.
Remember those amazing sea slugs and their incredible capacity for change.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, what kind of neural pathway do I want to create right now?
I love that.
The choice, as always, is yours.
And each of us has the power within to choose wisely.
Well said.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep exploring the amazing world.